Hi, I'm Travis Whitaker with Living Recovery. Thank you so much for joining. I wanted to create a podcast show to talk about people's recovery and their journeys and what they've gone through, to not only express and show that we can recover and reclaim our lives. It's just a message of hope, and I hope you enjoyed today. Today we have my friend Katie joining us.
Hi.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
And our show is sponsored by Maple Mountain Recovery and Living Recovery Interventions. So,
Love it.
all right, so let's talk about your life
My
and your
life?
little bit of your story.
A little bit of my story.
Yeah.
So I am a single mom. I was married for 3 years. It took me 2 years after that to get divorced.
Mm-hmm.
During my marriage, my ex-husband was a undercover addict, is what I like to call him, because he tried to hide it from me. Didn't work out so well. He was very abusive to me, both mentally, physically, emotionally, all those different things. So for 3 years, I dealt with this, about a year and a half beforehand, and then 2 years after. And it's been an ongoing battle for 8 years.
8 years?
8 years. It's been an ongoing battle. So this was 2012 that it ended. Once I finally got separated from him, divorce was final. Things got easy because he wasn't around, but that was just because he wasn't there. So
Right.
the physical battle with him was over, but the internal healing of the lying and the manipulation and the control really started for me. So because of that, I now have 2 children that I raise completely alone. And that's been an adventure and a
Right.
story in its own, which, I mean, most parents understand how that is. But when you take away the other parent, it makes it really hard.
So was he abusive when he was using, or was he using before you got married and abusive? I mean, how did that kind of change, and where did you see that change?
So I know that he used before we got together. I don't know what. When you're in an abusive relationship, you really just justify everything that's happened, and you're made to believe that it's your fault.
Right.
So with his addiction, I didn't really notice a lot of it. It started with using he was a meathead, I guess you want to call it. So he did the juice and all that stuff, and it started there, and then it went to pills and things like that, and then it was alcohol, and then once we separated, he was doing like hallucinogenics and stuff like that.
Wow.
So for me, I don't really know where that change happened because I was so controlled and manipulated, I didn't see it. I believed that everything he did was my fault.
Right.
And so he justified doing those things because of an action that I took. So I really couldn't tell you the difference in it. I couldn't tell you when it started versus when the addiction was.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just was a full-time thing for me.
Well, and you were worried probably mostly about taking care of your child at that time, making sure your daughter is okay and well. And, it's kind of one of those things where it's like, I'll take whatever I need to take
Exactly
as long
right.
as I can protect my child.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
And make sure they're okay.
and that's true. So I guess I should back up a little bit more. So my first daughter, I had her when I was 18 years old. Her father left me when she was 18 months old, and he is now living on the streets downtown Salt Lake and has been an addict for 18 years. So I don't really know his story because he left. I do know that when we were together, he was using, and I've caught him using, and then it turned into, for me to protect myself, I would actually go pick up for him. And then I would take it home because I knew in that time frame that he wouldn't hurt me.
Right.
Like, if I could give you what you wanted, then I'm not going to get hurt. So that was my oldest's father. And then I got into this, what I thought was a knight in shining armor. He presented himself amazingly, and then it turned into the same thing. So I protected my children. I made sure that I took whatever I needed to so that they wouldn't get the brunt of it.
Right.
And now that they're older and we talk about it, they tell me the things they remember. So even though I thought I was doing a great job being this super mom and protecting them from everything, they truly are now living the consequences of what he did as well. So it's been a really amazing experience for my girls and I to heal and be able to speak about it now and have them understand that, things happen, but we're growing and we're learning, and really anything is possible as long as you just keep your head down and do what you need to do.
Right. I
So-
mean, and life's difficult. My father, he passed away, I believe 10 or 11 years ago from a drug overdose, but he gave me it for adoption when I was 4.
Oh, wow.
So he wasn't even involved in my life.
Yeah.
But as a child, you're always like wondering, what's my dad like? What would the relationship be like? What if I meet him now? And, and to be homeless for that long and living on the streets,
Yeah.
it sounds like it's a good decision to not have them involved.
Well, and I I almost physically hit him with my car one night, not on purpose.
Yeah.
He was in a parking lot and we were leaving and I recognized him. And for some reason, I got out of my car to talk to him because I'm just that person that wants to make sure everybody's okay. And so my oldest actually got to meet her father for the first time in the middle of a parking lot in downtown Salt Lake. And I let her get out of the car to talk to him, and I stood in the middle of him and her, and I had my eyes on him the whole time because I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
He said this whole big long spiel of whatever, I don't even know. And then I looked at my daughter. I said, do you have anything to say to your father? And she says, nope. And just got back in my car, and that was it. She's like, I don't need to know anything else. I'm good with it. Like, I saw who he was, and she's such an amazing child and has grown so much that she doesn't need it.
Well, and because she's always probably wondering, those questions, and then to see him and go, okay, it's all making sense now. This isn't something that I want to be part of right now. It's not going to do any good for her.
Exactly right.
Give me some ideas. So while you're going through these, do you have supportive family that have helped be part of the, like your dad? Is your dad around?
My dad is
So
around.
has he been that role model to help with the girls?
Yeah. So my father is an amazing man, and he has taught me so much. And my mom too. Both my parents are around. I'm closer with my dad.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for them, I don't know where I would be. But my dad has definitely stepped up and filled a role with my kids to be a father figure. Like I tell my girls all the time, we have a joke where my left shoulder is the dad and my right shoulder is the mom, right? So whatever hat you need me to wear, I'll do it. Like nothing's going to stop me just because I'm a woman that I can't go do the daddies and donuts or whatever is happening. But if it wasn't for my dad, they wouldn't see what a true man is supposed to treat me.
Right.
And it's the respect and the caring and all of that stuff. So without my dad there, I don't know what their vision of a man would be. I have no idea. But he's an amazing man for sure.
Well, and then also to see how he treats your mom.
Exactly right.
This is how it's supposed to be. Open the door and be polite and respectful and, those types of things. My mom, growing up, was in a lot of abusive relationships as well. And that's what I got to see. But I became super protective. And I've always been the one that's like, don't talk to women like that. Don't do that. What are you thinking you're doing? If my daughter's dating somebody, I'm like, I need to talk with him first. We need to have some rules
We're
here.
We're going to sit down and have a conversation.
You're going to talk about how you're going to treat my daughter. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back in just a moment. Thank you.
I am a business owner.
I am a mother, a doctor.
I am a student athlete.
A lawyer.
I'm a police officer.
I'm your neighbor.
I needed meth.
Opioids.
I needed coke.
I needed alcohol.
I needed opioids.
I needed heroin.
I needed help.
Maple Mountain Recovery is here to help you with your healing and recovery. Call 801-499-9316 or visit us online at maplemountainrecovery.com. All right, welcome back to Living Recovery. Thank you again, Katie, for joining me. I appreciate it.
I'm excited to be here.
Yes. So let's go back a little bit.
Okay.
I know that your husband went to jail. What did that look like? What did that look like in your life? And let's just kind of talk about that a little bit. Yeah.
So I'm going to give a little backstory then and kind of explain how this all happened. So first I want to make sure I say that he is a changed person now, right? So my story is my story. It's my side of the story. He will have his side. For me, it was 3 or 4 months after we had separated, and I served him divorce papers, and he nonstop texted me every day. I mean, I don't even know how you can send that many text messages like in a minute. It was insane how much he would message me. One of these messages, he sent me a picture of my car that he had totaled on the side of the road.
Oh, wow.
And so for me, being that person, I made an excuse to go out there. And my excuse was, I have all the insurance information. I need to go make sure everything's okay. So I went out to make sure he was okay. And he had totaled a car and my car, the car that he had hit. When I showed up, I went straight to the people that he had hit. I made sure everything was okay there. By the time I was done, I was walking back to my car and realized that everybody else was gone. And it was just him, his mom, and his brother. And he was higher than a kite and literally chased me down the road, attacked me through the sunroof of my car, was literally on top of my car trying to reach me through the sunroof. And his mom's waving people down on the road, trying to get him to stop and help me. And next thing I realize, I look up, and actually the people that he had hit were pulling him off of my car and beating him up on the side of the road. So I know that his brother was one of the first ones there and took everything out of his trunk. I know he had a lot of illegal things on him. And they took him to jail, but they didn't book him into jail because he had a contusion on his head, and they can't do that when you go to jail. So the next day I went and got a protective order. Unfortunately, protective order is a piece of paper. It doesn't do much. It took me a long time, a lot of violations. I think I added up like 114 different protective order violations with him over a certain amount of time. Luckily for me, the final one was he got another DUI. He went to court for the DUI, and they tacked on the violations as well. So he got 364 days in the county jail.
How many DUIs was that?
6 DUIs.
6 DUIs?
He had 6 DUIs.
In what time frame?
I know he had a few before me, so I would say maybe like 8 years.
Wow.
Something like that. I mean, and the thing that was frustrating for me is that I saw all these other people that would get 1 and go to jail.
Yeah,
I'm like,
right.
you're on 6 and you're still here. Right. And so it was so frustrating. And once he went to jail, I was at every single court date. I made sure I was there so I could speak my story and they could hear my side of everything. And it was the hardest battle that I had to do because you relive it every time you go to court. And every time he opened his mouth and it was a lie, and you just want to scream at everybody and say, no, like that's not what happened.
Right.
So I fought it for 364 days before he was released. And then once he was released, he ran off with his new wife, and that was that. So the battle of trying to deal with him in jail while having 2 children and heal myself was the hardest thing I've ever done. It was crazy.
Well, I bet that 364 days, though, also gave you a little bit of peace, though, because you know that he
can't get me.
He can't come bother you. You're not getting phone calls to go, try to rescue or whatever, what that looks like. And that happens in relationships, right? Because you might be a fixer at that time. I got to fix it. I got to smooth it over, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So, that's gave you a little bit of time to work on yourself.
It did.
So if there's anybody out there that's struggling, going through like that, what did you do during that time to kind of work on yourself, just to give some others ideas?
And this is a question I get all the time, and it's how did you do this? How did you heal? And for me, it's still going. Yeah. So I don't want to put a time limit on it for anybody. I don't want to tell anybody that I was better in 2 weeks, right? I'm still learning and still healing from everything that I've been through. But for the time, the biggest thing for me was that I realized that every day that I woke up and I didn't smile, he was still in control of my life. Every day that I woke up and I allowed the thoughts of what he could do to me, that was controlling my life as well. So as soon as I just started waking up and going, I'm a badass lady, like I can do this.
Right.
And I started smiling every morning, and I just lived my life the way that I needed to. The other side of that, though, is I had very close tabs on the jail, right? I made sure, I think I was online every day making sure that he was still there. But biggest tips that I would say is to just believe in yourself, listen to your gut, your intuition, and just smile. And that sounds so strange, but a lot of people who are in abusive relationships or have just gone out of abusive relationships don't smile.
Yeah.
They carry the burden, they carry the fault. And as soon as you can just smile, it changes everything.
Because you're probably like, what did I do? What could I have done better? What could I have changed? And I like to tell people also, no matter what you're going through, is don't give that person your power. I know that's easier said than done, right? It is.
Yes.
But, just, you got to work through that and not let them take over your power, because that can just take up your time. And then you're like, you might have some depression going on, and it just adds to your anxiety and it adds to just everything else,
And I spoke with a lady just recently who explained it to me in a way that really made sense. So anybody that would hear it might make sense to them too. Because when you are a young woman or man, you think, I would never let anybody abuse me. I'm too good for that. That's not going to happen. If somebody hit me, I'm going to hit them back. And then you get in the situation and everything, you just carry it all. She explained to me that people that are that way feed on people that have very high strength, very high power, very high everything, because that's how they get it in return.
Right.
So as soon as you can let go of the fact that you're not worth anything, then and you're not believing everything that they're saying to you, because they make you believe you're worthless, you're ugly, you're awful.
Trying to break you down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But as soon as you can realize they were only doing that to steal your power, and you truly have all the strength in the world, it just starts to kind of come back, because then you're like, wow, he took that from me to be able to give himself the strength to be that way.
Right.
So truly within yourself, you are an amazing, unstoppable person. And as soon as you can believe it again, it's completely different.
I love that.
yeah.
I love that. That's fantastic. Great. Well, we're going to take another break, and we'll be right back.
I am a business owner,
I am a mother, a doctor.
I am a student athlete.
a lawyer.
I'm a police officer.
I'm your neighbor.
I needed meth.
Opioids.
I needed coke.
I needed alcohol.
I needed opioids.
I needed heroin.
I needed help.
Maple Mountain Recovery is here to help you with your healing and recovery. Call 801-499-9316 or visit us online at maplemountainrecovery.com. Welcome back. Thank you again, Katie. I appreciate you joining me.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the next step in your life.
Okay.
You know, I know you had all these things happen that kind of led you down a path, and all of a sudden you're working in the treatment industry,
Yeah, I
right?
am surprised.
Right? Tell me a little about that and what that looked like.
Well, so first, that's where I met this amazing man who's in the recovery world. So for me, actually, so being a single mom, I had to work like 3 or 4 jobs just to be able to support my kids. Out of a whim, I applied to be in the recovery world as a case manager and made it in, and it completely changed my life. I realized that helping people was my thing. I was just really good at it. So I was in the recovery world, I think, for 2-3 years. And then I just took a different path. But from that, I realized that that was my purpose in the world, being able to help people. So I started my own journey. I did a 14-day challenge on Facebook. I'm sure you saw it.
Yeah.
It was my purple handprint.
Yeah.
And this 14-day challenge, you have to show your face on live Facebook world every day.
Facebook world,
Facebook
right?
world. It's a very big world.
Yeah.
So every day for 14 days, I did that. I had a photo shoot one day. It was a domestic violence photo shoot. First time I had ever done anything like it, I was finally brave enough and knowing that I needed to speak my story so that
Right.
other people could hear that where I was and where I am. So I did this story, the handprint, I cried on camera, and it just went crazy. And then it got dubbed Katie's Crazy Corner. So now I'm doing Facebook Lives as Katie's Crazy Corner. And it just went from there. So now I do my own Katie's Crazy Corner podcast, and I get to help other people heal while they own their story. But the part that is the most amazing thing for me is I get to heal alongside of you. You were on my show, so I
Yes,
got to heal with you.
absolutely.
So that has been the biggest healing factor for me.
Right.
Because when you're in an abusive relationship, you feel like you're the only person in the world that's going through it. And that's it. It's the weirdest thing because there's so many people in the world. And I was always taught there's always somebody else going through the exact same thing you are. But when you're living it, you feel like you're isolated. There's nobody else doing anything. And once I started to speak my truth, share my story, hear other people's story. I mean, I had men and women coming out of the woodwork just wanting to share their stories with me and voice everything. So being able to hear that other people are going through the same thing has just been the most wonderful healing experience for me.
Well, that,
So-
that was, you're talking a lot about what myself as an addict felt like too. I was isolating. I didn't think anybody understood what I was going through because I wasn't out partying with other people. I was married with children, but I had 12 doctors and I was buying them from drug dealers and I was, you know what I mean? That was my journey, but I felt isolated. I felt no one knew what I was going through. So I went to treatment. I'm like, oh, there's no one else like me.
Yeah.
There's no one
just
else out there
me.
like me. It's just me. No one
Yep.
can understand what I'm going through.
Yep.
And then I started relating and oh, you are like me and you're like me. And oh, you went through that and you felt like that and you had some childhood trauma. And it's like all of a sudden it just starts opening up.
Yeah.
And then I want to start sharing my journey.
Yeah.
So that's what I've been doing
Yeah.
since I got into recovery almost 12 years ago.
Yeah.
Is, and the whole goal is if we can just reach one person
Exactly
a day.
right.
I want to reach one person a day.
Exactly
Right?
right.
Where somebody can say, oh, I've been there and you know what, I understand it. And thank you. You helped give me strength. And you probably get that a lot too.
That's so I also do life coaching. And that has been the most life-changing experience for me, because I get to hear other people's stories. So yeah, it's hard. You kind of carry the weight for them.
Yeah.
But giving that person the energy they need to be able to believe in themselves and see them the way that I see them is amazing. So it's like you said, I don't ever want anybody to feel the pain that I had to feel. And if that's one person today, then I'm good. I don't ever want anybody to have to feel the pain. And when you're in an abusive relationship, a lot of the problem is that people don't believe you.
Right.
So I could run and tell somebody and tell them all these horrible things that happened to me, and then the abuser would come and say, oh no, I didn't do that. And they automatically believe the abuser. So then you literally shut down. You don't talk about it. I didn't talk about it for 8 years.
Well, they're great at manipulating.
It's exactly
like
right.
I was in my addiction. Great at
Exactly
manipulating.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly right. So my biggest goal is to let people know that I believe you. I don't care what it is. If you come to me as an addict, as you come to me as an abusive survivor, thriver, like I say, it doesn't matter. I believe you.
Yeah.
I believe in your pain. I never say that I'm sorry anymore, because you are who you are because of your story. And if you can heal it and learn from it and own it, great. But I will tell you that I understand. I believe you. That's all that matters.
Yeah, absolutely. Connecting with people.
Yes.
You know, it's the opposite. It's the opposite of addiction. It's the opposite of just pain. It's connecting with people, letting them know, I understand. You know, I wasn't in your
Exactly right.
position, but I
Yes.
understand hurt. I understand pain and disappointment. And those are things that I can help you with, and we
Yes.
can talk about, and we can share a message of hope. Because you don't know what it looks like. You know, my specialty is the whole side of addiction. There's a misunderstanding that you have to be homeless or you have to be out on the street to be an addict. It's, you know what? It's athletes, it's lawyers, it's the next door mom, somebody that's part of the church. I mean, it affects everybody. There's no face of addiction. If I walk up to people and tell them what I've been through, and probably you too, because they'll look at you and go, no, whatever.
Yeah,
no, you haven't.
It didn't happen.
It's like, no, we've just come through it. We've come out the other side.
Exactly right.
So let's talk about, you know, because I'm big, I haven't always been the best father.
Yeah.
I know and own the mistakes I've made. So I've
Exactly.
tried to make sure that I get my kids in a good spot, because I believe in the passing down that trauma.
Yeah.
And my biggest things is my kids got to make their own mistakes and have their own journey.
Yeah.
I don't want it to be the journey that I've made.
Exactly
And if I
right.
can help bring that awareness and not have them
Exactly
go
right.
down that. So talk about, you know, how do your kids open up? Do they have a therapist? Do they, you know, what works for them and what's working for you today to continue down that right path to making sure everybody's happy and healthy?
So I did the therapy thing for a while. Both my girls also have been through therapy. Honestly, the best thing that has brought us all super close recently is truthfully just telling them what happened.
Right.
You know, I tried for so long to keep everything a secret because I didn't want them to have to carry the pain of what I had been through. But now realizing that truly they remember. And so it's always been this question in their mind of, is that a reality or did I just make this up? So for me, they've been listening to my show and me sharing my stories and talking about everything. And that has been the biggest thing, is that kids are so much smarter than everybody believes.
Yeah.
Right? And you can try and hide things and your emotions and whatever else, and they can feel it.
They know.
They totally know.
Yeah.
So being able to sit down and talk to my kids and explain, this is my story, and I'm very adamant about making sure that he has his side, I have my side. You know, his version will be completely different from mine, but I lived this side. And then being able to speak with them and, you know, things that they remember and talking about the situation in full so they can understand the full story has really helped us the most. And a lot of people say, well, I don't want to leave because I have 2 kids. Well, if you don't leave your ex or your husband abusive at the time, it's only going to be worse. They're going to know. They're going to see. If you hide it from your children, they're going to know. They're going to see. So when you're ready, talk to them about it.
Right.
That has been the biggest healing thing for everything. My eldest just got into Penn State. Congratulations.
Oh, what?
I know.
That's amazing.
I know.
Yeah.
Congratulations. But she had to write an essay.
Yeah.
And in this essay, she wrote everything that she remembered. And I just bawled my eyes out because she at the end just said, you know, if my mom has taught me anything, is to be true to who you are and own who you are, and anything is possible. So reading that after everything we've been through and thinking that I failed as a mother and everything else, like, it just made my heart happy. So truthfully, just owning who you are, the stories that you've been through, and sharing it with the people that you love, it's going to help you heal more than anything else.
Yeah. I love,
So-
my wife has come on because I think it's important. I talk about my journey, my side as the addict, and I know what I've done, but to have her come on and talk about what does that look like
Yeah.
from the spouse's side,
Yeah.
with the addiction. And I think that's important. It's important to share stories of, we're just in a different time right now.
Yeah.
I think back in the 80s or whatnot, you just didn't talk about things. You didn't
No.
talk about the emotion things.
No.
You swept it under the rug.
Yeah.
It was something, if you just sweep it, don't talk about it, it goes away.
Yeah.
Well, as we're seeing now, it doesn't.
No.
It
does
turns
not.
into, something different,
Yeah.
So Penn State, that's
I
amazing.
know. I'm so proud of her. Congratulations.
My
I'm so proud of her.
goodness, right? She's going to be leaving you, though.
I don't talk about it right now. I might cry. She's so, and again, you feel as a mom, especially as a single parent, right? You feel like you're just failing every step of the way.
Yeah.
And you can't be in two places. So which kid is more important in that time frame, right? And I just have felt so lucky that my girls have understood both of that. So 15 colleges later, she's chosen, hopefully, Penn State after all of it. So
For you.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much
Of
for
course.
joining. I appreciate it.
Of course.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you again for joining us on Living Recovery. I'm Travis Whitaker. And thank you for our sponsors, Maple Mountain Recovery and Living Recovery Interventions. Have a great night.